Are we ready? Okay, let's call to order the 915th meeting of the Board of Directors of Alexandria Sanitation Authority, now known as AlexRenew. Board members, we will take a look at the agenda and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Your second? All in favor?
Aye.
We'll take a look at the consent agenda, minutes from our January meeting. When you're ready, there can be a motion to approve.
So moved.
Your second?
Second.
Anybody feel? All in favor? Okay, moving right on to member updates. Community meetings. I attended my first Federation meeting last month, and it was very, very informative. They were very appreciative of AlexRenew being there, and there were a small number of complaints that bubbled up about the cut over to the new billing system. And everyone appreciated how quickly you all handled that. Carter Fleming, the head of the Federation, was just shocked that within a day of that meeting, those 5 concerns were addressed. Do we continue to monitor that website?
Yeah, actually, we responded to a couple today, so
I saw them. Yeah.
we're trying to stay on top of it.
It's an unusual practice for people to post to that website instead of calling AlexRenew. I will, when I go to the next Federation meeting, which is next week, I will put a plug in to tell folks that you'll get much faster service if you call AlexRenew directly.
Yeah, we would be appreciative.
Anyway, again, I think it's good that we go to these meetings. So, good. Any other community updates? Anything in Delray? Rosemont is just a buzz about the,
Yeah, no sewer buzz.
no sewer.
Yep.
Okay, Finance and Audit Committee.
We had our meeting last week and we had a discussion and 4 of the 5 board members there, and we decided, since we didn't have all 5, not vote on a recommendation. We were kind of focusing on one potentially, and we said, let's just bring it back here and that discussion is present. And
Good. That's good. Look forward to that discussion. Governance Committee.
We have some revisions to the board policies on the finance committee and the committee structure.
Mhm.
And Mr. Jinks, I've sent those to Mr. Collins, Mr. Waters. We will try to get comments back to you by the end of this week from the governance committee. If you could look at that.
Do you need any action from the board tonight? Do what I can in translating this. Okay, let's jump right into.
So we're going to talk about the EJ policy. The translated versions are going to go up on the website during your packet. So we did 4 translations. It's our first attempt at translating. We did it in-house through one of our consultants that supported us doing the translation. But, things like this are, if the board appreciates the translated versions, we'd like to put them up online. Down the road, it would be also our larger documents, publications like our strategic plan, things like that. We'd also like to translate and have annual report, have versions of that are available. If there's anything else that the board wishes to take translation service on, let us know. think that's something we can have a discussion about either at a governance meeting or one of our upcoming board meetings, but this is the first attempt that we've made at translating a relatively short document. I don't know, Mr. Robertson, how long did it take our team to translate?
It's about a week.
Okay.
For all of them.
This is Spanish, Arabic, and what is
All
the
right.
Amar?
And that's the same practice the city uses too, right?
So we followed the city's practice for their public meeting format recently with, what was it for? Affordable housing. They had their meetings translated in those languages, so we followed that practice. And the city has staff in-house that do the translation services for them. There's a whole program where they can get an additional salary for doing translation services. But we tried to follow their lead with the languages.
Great.
Seems reasonable, right?
Yeah.
I think the shorter the documents, the easier for us at the moment. I don't know about a full budget.
Yeah, I use your judgment.
Summaries would be useful. Yeah.
Very good. Big step forward.
Hmm.
That's a big step forward. And not easy to do. Thank you for that. Let's jump right into winter quarter average discussion. I apologize for not being at the finance committee.
Mhm. Go ahead. Mr. Jenks, do you want to take the lead on what we discussed at finance and audit with the slide up?
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. So we had a discussion at our finance and audit committee meeting, the board, after we initially presented a few months ago, the board asked us to go back and look at a hybrid option between options 3 and 4. In addition to that, there was also an ask for the impact to city revenue, which we added to the slide deck and was included in your green folder. Updated slide 9 and slide 10 is also included in there. So if you flip to slide 10, we looked at the hybrid options of merging 3 and 4. And in short, that was moving away from the artificial cap at 4,000 gallons and setting it based on the actual usage between December and February. Everybody would be eligible, but any account with a zero read during that winter quarter, those 3 months would be capped. We gave 2 options, 3 or 4,000 gallons. New customers didn't change from the previous options 3 and 4. And when we ran the revenue impacts, we saw if we capped those customers at 3,000 gallons per month, we saw a revenue decrease of about 530,000 gallons. If you move that up to 4,000 gallons, it's about 430,000 revenue loss, and the city would lose respective about the same percentage for their revenues, 1.3% and 1%. So when we looked at this, it was the most impact to our revenue than any of the other options that we investigated. And that's primarily due to a few reasons. When we eliminate the 4,000 gallon cap, right off the bat, we have a loss of about $430,000. When we come back in and had that eligibility criteria of 1,000 gallons, that actually gives us a boost in revenue and helps offset that loss. What we see is we always look for outliers in the data, and we work with the rate consultant to go through and look at the data. We found there are users that have really, really low usage during that winter quarter average and then jump up like 0, 0, 12,000, then jump up to 40, 50, 60. And that's not outdoor use in April, March and April.
You said 40 or 50,000
Correct.
as a residential user?
Correct. That's just one example. So there are,
Swimming pools?
what's that?
Swimming pools?
In March?
I don't
That's
know.
right.
Maybe.
Maybe,
What are they
maybe
doing?
ice skate. But right now, I think when we talked about this at the Finance and Audit Committee, meeting, there is, it seems like the current policy of arbitrarily capping at 4,000 gallons, there is some unfairness for those who want to conserve water during the winter quarter, and then they have an outdoor use. And it also benefits customers like I just described that would get benefit because they're using 40,000 gallons a month and they're capped at 3 or 4 in this scenario. So the recommendation, I think, from Finance and Audit was to go back to slide 9, Lorna, was to look moving forward with option 3, which kept the criteria. And if you have zero read in any of the 3 months, they're not eligible for the winter quarter average, and the minimum average usage per household has to be 1,000 gallons per that winter quarter. And I think we also discussed at the Finance and Audit meeting that none of these options are going to be perfect. We're never going to capture every single customer with this program the way we're setting it up now. It's just not feasible. Somebody could game this by using 1,000 gallons during the winter quarter and then have normal usage for the rest of the year. Have a low cap. But we saw the revenue impacts relatively minimal for both the city and AlexRenew, about the same, 0.25%. There is precedent in the United States for this as well.
Mr. Carl, I want to make sure I understand the proposal. So accounts with zero read in any of the 3 months will not be eligible.
Correct.
Will not be eligible.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
And if there's under 1,000 gallons of usage, the minimum to participate is 1,000 gallons of use,
During those winter months.
which is pretty low.
How common is it for a household to use less than 1,000 gallons of water a month? Is that really low or just slightly below average?
It's, if you do the, 40 gallons per day times,
Let's slide 7. 5% or 7?
but that, we don't know if that's somebody not being, the data doesn't tell you if that's,
Winter months.
well, or if they're here or not, or if they're just using water, conserving water. I don't know if they're not here or present or not. Can't do the math on my head.
Mr. Jenks, we want to vote on this tonight.
If it helps, I think staff put it forward, the budget with proposed rate structure, so this would be embedded in that would be helpful rather than adding it later.
So-
Effective July 1st with the new rates. We don't have to.
Correct. The plan would be if we do make a motion, just to go back to Ms. Hammer's question, on average, if it's one person in the household and we're talking single family residential units, at one person at 40,000 per day, it's about 1,200 gallons a month. It's one person. But to go back to the question, if we do make a motion tonight, the next steps would be, we do have to coordinate with the city. The city has adopted our winter quarter average. So Erin and her team would have to move that forward through council. And we would like to make these changes as part of our upcoming budget process, which would be approved in July.
And we can go forward if the city does not adopt this change, right?
They could stay with the old
They
policy.
can stay with the old.
They'd like. Correct.
So in the context of slide 9, we are really voting on option 3.
That was our recommendation. It seemed the cleanest to explain. And accounting for what we see with usage.
It's a lot easier to explain than the current system. That's it. For the values.
And the error on the side now is to charge people a minimum that probably is higher than they're using, as opposed to erring. This, in a sense, is going to get the free rider here. It's going to be the people who use more. Down the road, it may not be here. So it's like, which way are we going to tilt? Seem to be letting people erring on the side of people using water they're not paying for versus charging people for water they're not using.
I think this strikes a good compromise between those two considerations. With the eligibility requirements, I think that addresses the latter concern.
Simplifies cap, right?
Mhm.
There's no artificial cap anymore.
No, it's what you pay
It's
for
what
what
you
you use, right? Right. And the reason the cap was there though is to deal with the zero reads.
Zero reads.
That was the way around it.
I like the simplicity. I like the fact that it's almost relevant.
There need for more discussion, or are we ready to vote? I think this should come from the committee.
Okay, I move we adopt option 3 to July 1, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
No,
Aye. Anyone opposed? Well done. Very well done. Robertson, I think it's make the marketing job a little easier.
It does.
Would it be possible to contact the gentleman who came and spoke to us? Because I think he'd like to know that we are changing this.
It'd be a great
Wouldn't
idea.
that be nice?
It'd be nice
Since
to
the
have-
member of the public came to our meeting and spoke to us about this, I think it would be a nice gesture.
You could say we're entirely responsive to every citizen.
Yeah.
100%.
Literally 100% of the time, yeah.
You might get more visitors if you have.
I remember his name too, but it's in the minutes from that meeting.
Whenever it's final enough
Yeah.
to be shared publicly, it would be nice to just shoot him a note.
That would be very nice. And also, it's good government.
And you could tell him the city's considering doing it so he could go to their
You should go
public
talk to
hearing.
them also, yeah.
Let's not put Aaron in a box. He's dealing with a much larger organization. Well done by everybody, committee and staff, and good presentation of data, and a very good outcome. Thanks. Moving on to a very beautiful strategic plan. Mr. Carl.
Yeah, so thanks again to the board for meeting back in January and setting our vision for the next just shy of 40 years for the organization. What we wanted to do with that vision and the strategic goals that came out of the board retreat is to develop that into a 5-year strategic plan. So what we did as staff, if you jump forward to page 5 on, we took the board set the strategic goal of operational excellence and its description. And what we've done to that is we've then created objectives around each of those strategic goals. And that is sort of setting our 5-year plan for the organization moving forward. From this document, we would develop an internal business plan on an annual basis that we would have KPIs that we meet for each of these objectives. But each strategic goal sets forth, we set forth objectives that support that goal. And before we finalize this document, we wanted to share it with the board for feedback on our objectives to make sure that we're aligned with the intent of the goals. But the way we also structured this document, we have a nod to the board on the first page, noting that you set the vision, and that with that vision, we as staff have taken that vision and pushed it down into the organization to move forward on a 5-year basis. At the end of the 5 years, we'd likely have another similar retreat to revisit these and refresh them. not wait 12 years to do it like we did last time. So we're referring to some of the things in-house as the vision, noting that the board set that looking forward to 2060 mission, strategic goals, and then objectives, which support the goal. And then each of our departments will have KPIs to meet those goals annually. And we try to use as many pictures as we could of staff throughout the document.
Yeah.
And everybody except for Mr. Roberts and Ms. Glapion, we try to get quotes in there from our executive team throughout the document. So it shows that the organization is supportive of the vision.
I noticed it has a foreword from the executive team.
Yep.
Nice. Team focused.
Right.
Good. That's very good.
Is the bound copy we got tonight to say we were providing comments the same as the ones then sent to us?
Yeah, I think we just moved the word draft to the bottom right in the bound copy.
So it doesn't matter which one we look at, give you comments.
Hey, AlexRenew moves quickly. We just had our retreat a month ago. Not even.
Like 2 months ago now. Feels like a
A month
decade.
and a half? Right, it was early January.
What the difference? There you go. Yeah. Wow. This is really good. So you want comments back?
Yeah, I think we're looking for feedback on the objectives, just to make sure we're aligned. We had a lot of these up on we had the ability to go back to the whiteboard that we had at the meeting, to go back and pull some of the comments off of that. And staff was able to go through and develop the objectives based on our discussion. Anything to add?
No.
I can't get over the presentation quality of AlexRenew material. This was developed in-house. I mean, composed in-house.
What's the software called? InDesign? Do a PowerPoint too.
Whatever tool, but the tool is almost immaterial. It's a sense of style. It's human input. And it captures the workforce, it captures the vision, it captures the city. And it's very digestible. Hold on, Phil. How much time do you need, Mr. Carl? A week or two? Get back to you, how about a week?
So we don't have to incorporate this in the budget. We can incorporate the high level strategic plan in the budget. The intent was to put this in the budget document, which is coming to the board on the 18th of March. So I think if we get feedback by next Wednesday, that'd be great.
Okay, sounds fair.
And this becomes our 5-year plan.
Very good. Moving right along. I think we've all met Mr. Roberts and look forward to hearing more about cybersecurity.
So as Mr. Roberts gets up to present, just a quick introduction. Mr. Roberts is our Chief Information Technology Officer. He oversees a team of 8 AlexRenew employees, but a wide range of consultants and contractors that are supporting us. In addition to IT, it's also our customer service group in-house for our computers, so our customer service center, and also SCADA, so all of the instrumentation throughout the plant. SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition Systems, but all of our SCADA, our fiber, all those programs that we have in place at AlexRenew are overseen by Mr. Roberts and his team within IT. So Mr. Roberts has been here about 3 years now. And I learned just before the meeting, this is his first board meeting. So we feel that cyber is hugely important. It's very timely right now. We're going through our bond documents and we anticipate questions coming up from the rating agencies regarding cybersecurity, so we're preparing slides for that. Thought it was timely too with the budget. We do have investments in cyber. Wanted to share why that's important to the organization, and Mr. Roberts is going to walk through that today.
There's a mention of cybersecurity in the strategic plan too.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Chair, board members, I appreciate you allowing me to take the time to present tonight. As Mr. Carl said, it was my first opportunity so far since I've been here, and so I'm looking forward to it. We are going to be talking about general cybersecurity, overall what cybersecurity is and how it functions, along with cybersecurity in the federal government, which we kind of align to since we're an authority. Also, we want to talk about specific cybersecurity in the water and wastewater sector, how it pertains to us, along with the current challenges that we're seeing and some of the things that we're trying to do in the future to help with our cybersecurity. So first of all, I want to start with what is cybersecurity and why it's important. At a very high level, cybersecurity is designed to protect our assets. It's designed to make sure that we're getting authorized people who are doing their jobs and only their jobs, and no one else is coming in and either taking our data or trying to do some damage to our systems. So it safeguards and protects our mission, which is obviously the clean water. That's our first and foremost out of everything, and we take that very seriously here. And we also want to make sure that we are preserving the privacy of everybody's personal information. We have HR things and we have some personal stuff that we would obviously want to protect, and we don't want to get out to the general public. We do have some proprietary things, even though we are a public entity and pretty much are expose everything that we would have here. But there is some stuff that is private, is proprietary, that we wouldn't want to get out to the general public. And so we make sure we safeguard that as well. The big thing is ensuring business continuity. In this day and age, with the threats that go on, we want to make sure that we can continue to clean the water. That's our number one focus and mission, is to make sure that we can do that. What happened? So the first thing is federal government. So the federal government has very robust standards on cybersecurity. We want to align to the federal government since we are an authority. Basically, there's three types of standards when it comes to cybersecurity, each one getting a progressively more elaborate, more expertise required, more time spending in order to keep it up. The first level is our NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's a cybersecurity framework, or CSF as it's been known if you hear it around. That's the basic level one that basically all corporations want to adhere to, not necessarily federal government, but more of what corporations would want to do to protect their data. It's the basic entry level positions on cybersecurity. The next standard is federal government standard, which is level 2, which is what they call NIST 853. It's a pretty long document, pretty dry, and it goes through the entire how to protect your data, how to protect assets, how to make sure you keep it from getting into the wrong hands. There's a big step between level 1 and level 2. Level 2 incorporates level 1. So if you get done with level 1, you can move on to level 2, and you're just basically adding on to additional security measures. The last one, the level 3, is a CMMC, is what they call it. It's Department of Defense. It's basically what is required for contractors to engage to the Department of Defense. One of the things that is happening in the government is the vendors are getting compromised, and they're going through the vendor systems into the government systems. So this is a way to lock down the vendors. There's additional security wrapped around this. This also incorporates things like air-gapped networks, things like classified systems. And so we want to try to incorporate as much of that as possible. We can incorporate some of this without having staff impact. For instance, making sure we're air-gap systems and the way we move data around. We can do that without having impact to staff. So we prefer to roll out some of these standards. We're not going to roll them all out because it would have staff impact. People would have to jump through hoops in order to do their day-to-day job. So we're trying to find the balance between the maximum level of protection that we can do, as well as providing a good experience and functionality to the rest of the staff. And we're also continuously trying to improve this. This is an ongoing thing. This isn't a one and done. Once we're done, we can rest our hands. We can't do that. This is an ongoing thing. And we'll get into some of the reasons why we have that in a moment. Wow. Every time I press the button, I break it. There we go. All right, so this is what we have for cyber in our sector right now, the wastewater sector. It is still ongoing. It's fairly immature. We're currently developing cybersecurity regulations. I have been on some of the committees to help design some of these regulations. Right now, the main issue is operational technology, which runs our SCADA systems. It's not necessarily IT, but it's the SCADA side, the plant side of the house. Even the brand new systems, when we buy everything latest and greatest, it lags 10 to 15 years behind technology, current technology. So it makes it a little bit harder to secure because you're dealing with something that can technically go back to the 90s, to mid 90s and early 2000s sometimes. And you're trying to protect that. Even though we have the latest and greatest stuff, we have the latest versions of software and things like that. So they typically lag, makes it a little bit more challenging than it does in other environments. The big issue is it's also, most of these are small plants. The big boys like us, DC Water, LA, Houston, we have the resources, we can spend the money if we need to. Most of these plants, especially in the rural areas, you go in the middle of Kansas somewhere, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the funding to protect. And that's posing especially challenging right now in the sector. So as I said, I was on the committee with the EPA to do the regulations. One of the things that the government is doing is they're really getting into infrastructure cyber. Gas, electric, they started with, they're now getting into water and wastewater. So I was on the committee to help draft these regulations, help try to draft these cyber policies. And we spent about a year putting together recommendations, which we submitted in March of 2023. After some review and some pushback, they actually withdrew these recommendations in October of 2023. Now, one of the things is the recommendations that we have when we go back to the old slide, the level 1, these were far and away lower than the level 1 that we tried to implement. This was just basic cybersecurity hygiene, and we got pushback. And I think the quote by Tim Griffin there kind of sums it up. They don't have budgeting. They need money. They need expertise. You just can't provide the regulations. And I think what happened is with a lot of smaller plants that we had the problem with just being able to do the regulations. They weren't necessarily enforceable. They were just recommended guidelines. But this is kind of where we're going on the political front when it comes to cybersecurity in this sector. Again, an additional challenge for us. So one of the reasons why we're trying to do this. So Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, November 2023. They were attacked. They got access and control of the SCADA systems, certain aspects of the plant. The reason why they did that was a basic lack of security, kind of the things that I've been talking about. It wasn't properly secured. It wasn't properly architected. And the motivation was a little bit different than we have seen in the past. This one was a direct motivation because they owned Israeli equipment. This occurred while the Israeli war started. And Iran went after organizations that had Israeli-based technology. So it's a very small plant. Nobody would even know it exists unless this happened to them for the most part. But it is one of the things that we have to be careful with because even though we're wastewater and we're only wastewater, people are still motivated to attack and do cybersecurity. There's a reason why we have to do the cybersecurity for it, even though we're a plant that probably wouldn't be necessarily in somebody's radar. We are now because of the nature of what's been going on in the past. And this is the recent one. This happened a couple weeks ago. So the FBI director went to Congress, and one of the things that he talked about was China and its active threat against infrastructure, power, water, gas. That's what they're going after. They're specifically going after right now wastewater. We are seeing it in the industry out in there. We haven't seen it personally, but they are doing that. One of the reasons is what they're trying to do is they want to go after the military bases. So think about what happens if China decides to do something with Taiwan and then start an engagement with Taiwan. Guam, we may spin up resources in Guam. So what they're doing is they're going after the power, they're going after the water. You shut down the base, shut down the water and the power to a base, you cause that kind of disruption. It would make it a lot harder for us to be able to spin up resources and respond to threats. So what is China's being a little proactive when it comes to this is they are going after especially areas around military bases or things that feed into big critical infrastructure like hospitals. Where they can disrupt that, shut the water down to a hospital. Think about the what would the impacts would be across the country if they were able to do that. So this is active, this is ongoing, and it's something we definitely need to be concerned about if they are turning their sights onto our sector. So the types of attacks that we see in their frequencies, okay, they range from very simple things that are easily we could block to very difficult, complicated, very resource intensive type attacks. So when we talk about different types of attack, I did want to put this in because some attacks are obviously worse than others. So on the lower end of the spectrum, we call them kiddie scripts. Basically what they are, software you can download in about a half an hour. Anybody here in this room can become a hacker. All you have to do is download the software, follow the software, and you can effectively start scanning and start going after anything that you choose to. It's a lot more complicated than that, but entry-level people who are learning the industry, that's one of the things that they'll do is they'll start with these. Now, the good thing about that is our tools can block these type of things. These are well-known hacks. These are well-known things, vulnerabilities that we run into. We can easily protect these. But also, on the contrary, we get a lot of them because of that. These are automated. A lot of times, they'll just turn these things on and run it 24 hours and come back and see what they got. So they're very automated, very easy to use. We get about 75,000 of these a day. So again, our tools block these. It's not that big of a deal.
So you
Yes,
say we, you mean AlexRenew or Nation?
AlexRenew. Yep. Presently, every day we get about 75,000 of these attacks every day against us. So part of the challenge is we only have to be wrong once. They only have to be right, right? They have to be right only once out of all this. And we have to be 100% perfect all the time. And these numbers, even though they are high and they do seem high, our tools are designed to be able to handle this kind of traffic and these kind of things.
Do we know where those attacks are coming from?
They come from all over. They basically come from all over the world at any given moment. You can see how they come up and down based on political events that are happening. So you can tell when some people log into work for the day and all of a sudden things spike. You can see that kind of thing, but they come from all over. Without getting into too much detail, the things from overseas are a lot easier to manage and a lot easier to control than things locally in the United States. But yeah, they do come from all over. The next one is not necessarily officially a type of attack, but this is the one that we have we spend a lot of time on. Is that these are phishing attacks. These are the things you get in the emails. And somebody clicks on an email. They go after human nature. They build these things specifically for you to fall victim to it. It's not really anybody's fault a lot of times that they do that because they look legit, they act legit, they're coming in a very certain manner. They do things called social engineering. They get to know how we do business, and they utilize that to our disadvantage. So for instance, in accounting, they may receive an email saying, hey, you need to do something or click on this, or I sent you this, you need to sign this, something that every day may look normal, but they click on it and we can get compromised from it. We do get about 100 of these per day. We can only block about 13% though, is where the problem is because it looks like legitimate traffic. It's very difficult to block an email and that fine line between blocking something malicious and blocking something legit. It's difficult. So we do get about 100 of these a day. We do spend a lot of time managing and protecting against this. The two on the far right are the most scariest for everybody in the industry. One is called a 0 day. The 0 days, these are something that the tools will not protect. They will not stop them. By definition, a 0 day is something that no one has ever seen before. The security companies have not seen it. They have no way of protecting us until such time as somebody gets a hack. So one of the things we have in cyber is we're very reactive. Somebody has to get compromised, and we could take that compromise, figure out how they did it, and then build the tools and then push out the new updates to the tools in order to stop what's going on. But somebody has to get attacked first. That's part of the problem. So we get updates about every 4 hours on our tools. That's how often updates come out. And so we also engage making sure we have vendors that are worldwide. So they have the information and knowledge to be able to update our tools. So we don't use like mom and pop type tools. We're using very enterprise versions of our tools. The last one is the supply chain. This one gets a little bit more complicated. But if you ever had a PC that just automatically updates, your personal PC updates automatically, well, that process is it goes out to Microsoft and it goes to a very specific area of Microsoft that's very well protected, and it downloads the patches and installs the patches automatically. Well, hackers have been known to get into the patch, not us, they get to them, the vendor. So they go to the vendor, they hack the patch, they install the code inside the patch, and then the company then packages the patch, makes it look legit, throws the patch out to everybody. We download the patch, we update the patch, our code is now compromised. We have no way of knowing, right? Luckily, they're not very common. They're very resource intensive. They're very expertise to be able to do. We see about 2 of these a year, and they're devastating when they come out. So if you see one of these major attacks, it makes the news, chances are it's either a supply chain or a very good zero-day attempt that occurred. Luckily, we only get about 2 of them worldwide. One of the ones in IT was called SolarWinds. If you happen to be in the IT business, SolarWinds was a game changer for security. It was the first time this has happened. SolarWinds is something that is an IT thing, it has access to everything. And so they came in, they hit SolarWinds. If you downloaded the patch, they had access to everything. Nobody knew about it until probably a couple months before we were able to get our arms around that and wrangle it in. So that one can be a very scary one for us. So other type of tools that we have in the toolbox, without getting into anything too detailed, this is how we pretty much protect everything. The first one is internet defense. The internet is our enemy in this case. From a cyber point of view, that's the road that everybody uses to get into our systems. If we shut off the internet, we wouldn't have any issues. Nobody would be able to do their job, but we wouldn't have any issues. So that's one of the big ones that we do, is we definitely have to protect everything that is attached to the internet. PCs is the big one with that. Obviously, people use PCs. They need PCs to do their job. They need emails, phishing, and all of that. That's where all of that comes from. The email phishing blocks. Data and file security. It's one of the things we talked about already. If they do get into our systems, what can they have access to? How can they pull data out to either exploit us or maybe a ransomware attack after they have all of our data? So we monitor our data very closely. Especially things like the plant drawings, the engineering drawings and things like that. We obviously don't need that stuff being released out into the public, and we protect that vigorously. Application security, one of the things that happens a lot is applications aren't properly secured. There's new things that come out, people find it all the time, and we lock down our applications as much as we possibly can. Infrastructure and cloud security. Cloud is a big one. Amazon in particular, you see a lot of times people get into Amazon. Amazon is very difficult to configure and secure properly. And so sometimes that gets a little loose and people get in. So we monitor cloud security and make sure that all of our cloud security is just as tight as it is on-prem here in the building. And it all boils down to, at the end, user access and permissions. If you're a user, if you're an authorized user, are you doing legitimate authorized stuff? Most of the time, not most of the time, about 56% of the time, the hack occurs because they have somebody's email and password. They get in, they look like normal, everyday people. They get in, they come in during the day, they walk in at 9 o'clock in the morning. They kind of do what they would normally do as a normal user. Very difficult to tell the difference between what a normal user is and what a malicious person would be impersonating that normal user. That's where things like AI helps us in behavior analysis to try to detect a person who does their job normally, and those abnormal things we try to alert on. Most of the time they're legit, sometimes they might not be, and that's what we follow up on, is making sure that we have normal traffic. Some of the goals that we're trying to have for the future. So a lot of these we're still doing is multiple tools and defense mechanisms. We use multiple vendors. We use multiple ways of security. We layer security over the top in order to protect as best as we can. So if one vendor doesn't have an update to something, and hopefully the other vendor does, and so we use multiple vendors and those updates come in at different times to help us. We strive for the Department of Defense level security. We're going to be as secure as much as we possibly can in order to help with this. The more security that we have and the more configurations that we can do to lock us down, the better we're going to be. We also have the security first culture. We support a security first architecture. Everything we do from an IT SCADA systems is security number one. That's the bottom line at this, when we do the designs and we add new things to it, the first thing we're looking at is security first. Makes it a lot easier for us to secure when we architect our technology around that. We can easily pivot and move when we need to. And again, we want to continually invest in cybersecurity. There's a lot of things that happen. Things change over time. We want to make sure we keep up with the latest and greatest what's going on. We also do a lot of support for research and development in cybersecurity. Right now, I have a really good pilot going on with Virginia Tech, where we're looking at cybersecurity, not from a tool or technology standpoint. We're actually looking at cybersecurity on the plant and the data coming out of the plant. How does the data change when we're attacked, when we're compromised? Sometimes the plant and things in the plant change. Virginia Tech is using AI against that. So it's not unrelated to our security tools. It's a really nice perspective to take a look at it from a different angle and use that. Can we use the data that we're generating from the plant to see if there's something else going on that maybe our tools wouldn't be able to see or are blind to? We also have to report to the Fusion Center, the Virginia Fusion Center, and CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. We deal with a lot of that. I have a really good relationship with them. They are really being well funded now, and better funded than they have been in the past, and they're doing a lot of good work, and they're local to everything. So they have all these different regions. Instead of the EPA, they're into all the rural regions and stuff, and they can do very specific things at the regional level, which the EPA can't do. So I'm working really a lot with them in order to try to help with the sector in the wastewater and try to get some of this basic cybersecurity stuff trained and then implemented for everybody. And we're helping CISA with that as well. So how does the cyber investments differ than regular investments? A planned investment is much different than an IT investment. Cybersecurity, we measure our life cycles in months. When we buy something for the plant, it could be 50 years before we look to replace that. I can't replace things in 50 months. So I have a much different life cycle than the rest of the infrastructure does. It makes it challenging to a certain extent because I have to figure out how to protect something for 50 years when I don't know exactly what it is I'm going to have to protect and how I'm going to have to do it. One of the reasons why we do that safety first architecture. We have the ability to pivot very quickly and move very quickly now. So in the event that something new does come about, we can adjust accordingly, even if we have to protect something for 50 years. Technology capabilities, it's called Moore's Law. It's been going on since the 50s. Technology doubles every 2 years. The speed of everything doubles every 2 years. That is still happening. So think about it exponentially. For every 2 years, everything doubles for the last 50 years. So it's very difficult to keep up with that technology, with that level going on. And then we add artificial intelligence to it. Now, artificial intelligence, what we have seen so far with ChatGPT in particular, is the phishing attempts. So we used to see phishing attempts that were poorly worded. They weren't structurally right. The English was a little off. A lot of these are foreign nationals who were developing these. Now they can throw it into a ChatGPT and it can come out as perfect business language. It looks absolutely perfect. So it's making it that much harder to try to protect, especially against phishing, with the new ChatGPT tools that are out there. And then if you add quantum computing, which is starting to come out now, there is quantum computers out there now. They are doing certain very specific things. The Pentagon owns one, and they do very specific things with that. You start combining artificial intelligence and quantum computing together, and this is where you start seeing the doomsday and everything else that's going on with artificial intelligence. We don't know what the future holds with this. I think there's good aspects as well as bad. We kind of see a lot of the bad and the negativity around it, but there's a lot of good things that can come out of this. For instance, we're using AI now for behavioral-based analysis to see whether a user is legit or malicious based on their user behavior. We use AI tools for that. So we do have, we are a little behind usually when it comes to technology. The bad guys can implement it a lot quicker than the good guys can. And so we're always a little reactive, a little behind the times when it comes to that. But there are certainly going to be unique challenges as we go forward. And that is my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, first, thank you for such a complete presentation, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here to protect us. A couple questions, but I want to get the board jumping in too. Is there such thing as a security certification? Much like, I know CMM, you can be level 1, level 2, you get certified by an independent party. is security going in that direction where we should consider maybe some kind of independent certification of our security protocol?
So there's a difference between certification and audit certs or audit results. So there are security certifications like a CISSP type certification where you have the experience, knowledge, and training for that cert. We also have auditing for like NIST 853 and these kind of controls. Currently, there isn't. It's not like you can go and get certified for NIST 853, that kind of thing. They don't have that yet. They're getting closer and closer to it. Part of the problem is the frameworks are very vague and generic because they have to apply to everything and everybody. So it's our job to interpret those, what they say, interpret what we're seeing out in the field and adjust accordingly to what works for us. So it's kind of difficult to certify per se or audit that. One of the things we are going to do though is once we are done with ours is I am bringing in an independent person to go through everything and see how we match to what we think we have as an independent. So we're not going to get certification, but we will have independent verification. It's called IV&V. I love independent verification. Get another set of eyes, come in, take a look at it, make recommendations. Let's fix whatever they see if they see something. But I don't want to do that yet because we're not quite there. They're pretty much just going to give me stuff I already know. So I want to get past everything that I know and then have them come in and hopefully find things that we didn't necessarily see.
That audit include them attacking us?
It's called penetration testing.
Trying to attack you.
Yes. We do usually do a penetration test. We did one when I first got here just to give me an idea of where we were at. We haven't done one since we're still in the process of shoring everything up and getting everything set up. Once we're done with that, probably towards later this year, we're going to have a routine penetration test coming in. And what we can do is we can simulate attacks that are happening in real world. So things that are happening out in the field right now, we can then go and we can simulate that and see how it affects us and whether or not we can be exposed to it. So that's one of the things we'll do. We're probably going to do a monthly or quarterly pen test. We'll probably do monthly for a while until we get comfortable with the results and the results become consistent, and then we'll go to a quarterly. But again, to the point, continuous process. You always have to do this because you just don't know what has changed.
The two things to add to that. We're not in this alone. So Mr. Roberts does meet with other local water and wastewater agencies. We recently hosted a meeting here last month to kind of coordinate on some of these goals and what we're doing, what they're doing, what's best practice in cyber. Absent strict guidelines, we're also working internal working groups. I think the other piece is we also focus on, just like we do Safety Month at AlexRenew, we also do Cyber Month. And it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I think it's October, where we do some of these sort of, games and phishing attempts. I know when we all first took over here, we put against my better judgment, Mr. Robertson put the announcement online. And within 2 days, people were getting emails from me asking to deposit money in this bank account. So
Everybody do it.
I don't think.
That worked out.
But there, it is real, and it's interesting what people find online and are able to use against you.
You mentioned early on air gaps. I'm familiar with air gaps from a water infrastructure standpoint. What's an air gap in this context?
Same thing. It's the same as, so I come from a DoD, NSA type background, built classified networks. So I'm using the same type of security as you would use at a DoD classified. So air gap would mean there's no internet in or out, there's no way in or out, that kind of thing. Without getting into too much detail in the public setting, I can certainly dive into it more specific to us. But it's the exact same thing. Pretty much you just don't want to have internet access and have any ability to the outside to get in. One of the things with Alopecia that you saw in Pennsylvania was they had the SCADA system was exposed to the internet. One of the first no-nos. And so they were able to get in because it was exposed. So one of the easiest things to do is make sure it's not exposed. So even if they can get in through like a supply chain hack, they get into a patch or something, that doesn't necessarily mean they have access because everything's remote controlled. So if like somebody from China would need to use the internet in order to use whatever it is that they installed on our systems. If our systems don't have internet, even if it's installed, it's useless to them. They can't get to it.
So our SCADA systems aren't connected.
So loosely based, our SCADA systems are air gap. I'll get into too much detail.
The downside of the Internet of Things.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Yeah, I mean, again, the internet's the worst enemy. It's the roadmap into it. So if you could, so we try to ride that line between what we have to allow and what we don't need to allow. We don't allow wide open systems to talk to everybody. It doesn't make sense anymore in this day and age. So we limit to what we know. We know what the systems do. We know exactly what they're supposed to do, who they're supposed to talk to, and how they function. And we don't allow anything else outside of that.
Does SCADA run on dedicated terminals? If you can, maybe you can't answer.
No, yeah, they do. Everything runs, everything, SCADA is completely separate from everything else, completely separate. We are way paranoid when it comes to SCADA.
Okay, so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, probably a little more paranoid than we
No,
need to be, but I'd rather be on the far
Be
side.
as paranoid as you want.
Yeah, we're extremely we're paranoid with everything, and SCADA is just one extra thing that we pay attention to a little bit more.
Now, I've got to ask this though. Could we run this plant without SCADA in an emergency?
Technically, without SCADA, yes. Without PLCs, which is a part of the SCADA, no. People get heartburn, but we can because each control has a local screen. So in the event, and we have played with the scenarios, tabletop exercises, we could literally put somebody on each system and run it locally without anything else. So it would run dedicated right to the whatever pump or whatever it is that they're using. We have screens dedicated to that. So we could technically, the plant wouldn't be able to do it. Everybody would have heartburn over it. And
I think we run out of people.
deservedly so, we would run out of people. Yeah, we would definitely need more staff, but we do plan when we do our disaster scenarios, that's what we plan on. Everything is down. What do we have to do? What's the very first thing you have to get back up to keep the plant running? And that's the kind of thing that we look at. And how would we do it? We may have to bring in additional people. We're building out run books on how to run these things without the IT systems, because we had to do that during some of these upgrades. We had to actually run these things manual. So one of the other projects that we did a couple of years ago is we documented all of that to figure out how do you have to run this thing in manual mode if we ever had to. And so we have that, we have the knowledge, we can train staff on that as well. And we'll be doing that as we get more mature into these things.
And you could train the board to turn valves too.
We can get a little robot.
I eyeball that level and tell the pump what speed to ramp up
Do
to.
you have the records on how they ran the plant back in 1955?
I have not, we have not gone in to look at that, but the plant was a lot simpler.
Yeah,
It was just a settling tank.
You put the screen in and get taken.
It's just essentially a clarifier and dump some chlorine in and send it back out.
Have we considered our insurance, since, for example, protecting against the ransomware?
We do have some cyber insurance.
We actually just went through this. We went through, we have an insurance consultant that reviews our coverage on an annual basis, and we upped our cyber coverage this year. We thought it was low based on, it's Aim Go, who we use for our insurance consultant. The recommendation was we boost up our insurance on cyber. It was a little low. We get our insurance through Versa, so we worked with Versa and we got it boosted up. Forget what the number is.
Does it cover our SCADA system or only?
That
some of our-
is strictly cyber from responding to a cyber attack. So what if the cyber attack would take down the SCADA system? SCADA would be covered under our regular insurance.
Another question, do we keep our system's credit card data? The people pay directly from their bank accounts that data, or do we have an outside vendor keep and secure that?
That data is called PII, Personal Identifiable Information. We have some copies, other we don't have credit cards and things like that. We do have a customer copies of our customer base, but that's it. We don't keep anything else here, and we protect that data.
Copies of the customer base is who the customer name is. Their
Yeah, the
billing
flow
payment
report
history,
has
but
that data. That's the only
somebody
thing that we
hacked into
have.
that, they're not going to find credit card number.
No,
bank
we don't keep any of that.
Any other questions from the board?
You?
Very, very good presentation. And I think we all feel comforted.
We'll sleep tonight.
And thank you for putting us on the agenda. Okay, next item on the new business agenda is, the Ellen Pickering Award. And we may have a volunteer. Our newest board member would like to do it.
You don't even need the spiel.
No, I love judging, so I'm
She's
in.
very,
Yeah.
she's very good at it too. And I think, I think after, this year, we'll start from the top, the oldest board member to the newest board member. Just go through. That's how we should do the Pickering Award. Good, good. You're gonna enjoy it.
Yeah.
Do we get to plant a tree this time?
There's no tree planting planned.
Okay, in past years, we had done that.
So, and just to give a quick background, so we've been doing this for about 15 years. Typically, a board member from AlexRenew works with the city and works on both the selection committee and then presents the award at a city-sponsored event, which this year we're targeting the Garden Fest. So right now that's scheduled for April 21st. So essentially, the nomination process started today, runs till the end of March, and then you just meet virtually with someone from the city and also a member of the Pickering family, select a winner, which could be either an individual or a group, and then present the award at the Garden. And last year it was really well attended. It was sort of a smaller event, I'll say, but we had great attendance. Don Byer showed up, the mayor showed up, the city council board member showed up. It's a good showing. Well, very well received. We got some good PR out of it as well.
Yeah, like I heard about it when it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Friends of the Mount Vernon Trail one last year.
It helps that they had a good social media network.
Yes.
Well, Ellen Pickering was on this board. She lived in Rosemont, and she was once president of the Rosemont Civic Association. Did a lot of overlap here. It's good. Good. Do we need to vote on that? No.
I think we do.
I think we do.
Usually.
Yeah.
We
Did
do?
last year.
I think you have to make a motion and sign the memo. I think we have to take I think we have to take a vote.
We will take a
Last
vote.
year.
Okay,
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I move that our volunteer for the Ellen Pickering Award ceremony is our board member, Becky Hammer. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. And it'll be a good event too. So the end of April, you'll let us all know.
I'm on my calendar right now, so
And we'll wear
I'll
our,
make other plans.
maybe wear our new AlexRenew shirts. And then maybe.
We all get a match.
Well, match, that's important. Good. Okay, let's jump right into monthly outcomes. Mr. Carr.
So just a few quick updates in the Riverview dashboard. The last page, Jameson is slated to open on March 4th. There's a really cool picture in there. I don't know who took it, but it shows what it takes to cross Jameson and dig up a pipe that was installed when the plant was built. Pretty neat photo. We did run into, some delays with respect to the work. The snowstorms delayed us, as well as the pipe had looked like they old school tunneled it, and it was in an encased pipe when it went through that former bridge trestle area. So it took a little longer to bust the pipe out. We coordinated with Council Board Work Group and our SAG, notifying them of the delay, and we're assured that the road will open again on March 4th, and that's all in each direction, bike lane and cycle.
I would encourage all board members to, at some point, go look at the work site at Hoof's Run by the Port Restaurant.
You see that picture in the back, in the photo, that's part of the pipe that was pulled out. Mangled, but it's out. In addition to that, we have 800 feet to go with the waterfront tunnel. Hazel's she's made the last second to last bend she'll make, out to go under Founders Park. And then we're in one more bend north and we're in the straightaway.
800 feet to go.
So close.
Amazing.
It's wonderful.
It's still about 40 feet a day, give or
We
take.
did 90 yesterday, but it's been slow going with the belt.
Are you sleeping better at night?
In addition to that, we did launch, it's not in the outcomes, but I wanted to mention that we did launch the new and improved Moxie. She's also in the lobby now. If you've been in the lobby, the new Moxie's in the lobby. You can see her on that pole, that large column that supports the building, like the one behind Mr. Hill. That's been wrapped with the new version of Moxie.
Really?
Yep. Like right where the stairs go up to the second floor. We did that, and online we launched the new version of Moxie as well last week. Pushing the younger audiences to different corners on our website, the AlexRenew website, to learn more about the organization. Come here to the plant or go to 4 Mile Run and read some of the information about our organization there. So that's being launched, and it's a bit of a slow roll. You'll notice that the signs aren't in the building anymore. You didn't notice the signs aren't in the building? Then you see,
When I walked in today, I did notice it.
okay.
It was missing.
There are no signs on the building. They've been updated in the building. The sign manufacturing company is finalizing our signage to go up on this side of the building at the fountain and then on the reclaimed water system.
Wow. No, I did notice it. Will it be backlit like the old one?
The lights are there, so yeah. And I just passed out the new storybook. We'll be launching this in the next few weeks. This is the second book in the Chloe and Friends story. This is the Backo brothers, and really the story of how we build the Hoofs Run Interceptor. That's Blake and Brian on the cover. They're a bit of curmudgeons in the first book, but they come around at the end, so they got their own book, and even Stu gets to dig some stuff up in this book. So it's pretty exciting. We have 2 more to go, one around the pumping station and one around the plant. You can't make this stuff up. You can actually.
Is this written in house? I mean,
Our copywriter is Megan Jernak that wrote this, but it's super collaborative with
yeah, I
Matt
can
and his
imagine.
team.
Yeah.
Collaborative with who?
Matt and his team,
Also, John.
and a heavy hand.
It's gonna be bedtime reading tonight.
So if you need any more copies, Caitlin brought up a phone.
I think some of our board members will
Yeah.
need more copies.
So they're right here. If
Yes.
you want to grab some on the way out.
This is really good stuff.
Yeah.
Anything that encourages young people to become engineers is a good thing. And I think this does that.
And it is Engineers Week.
Very good. Excellent. And it even has a ISBN number.
It's very poetic.
Hmm?
It's very poetic.
Very good. Very good. Okay, Dave, on the monthly report, any updates on the delinquency situation?
So we kind of leveled out after we had that big jump due to the billing.
Mhm.
So as you know, last month we had a jump in our delinquencies because our bills went out late because we had an issue with the VAW data. You can see that leveled off in January. So I think you can attribute those jumps that you see to our billing system not getting caught up. And as Mr. Hill noted during the beginning of the meeting, we do still get some complaints about people received 2 bills last month within a week of each other because of the billing delays. We're still responding to some of those concerns. And keeping an eye on bringing integrity back to Alexandria and making sure that we check each of the customers and reach out to them to make sure they're not having ongoing issues with their bills. But our call center volume has quieted down significantly.
And The root cause of this is the data source from Virginia American Water.
It's the latest. So initially you had a delay that was sort of built into the schedule. And then the following month, Virginia American Water, when they shared their data with us, there were 1,500 accounts that were missing data. So all of those bills had to be manually fixed. They had a team of 19 people. So that slowed the billing process for a second month, and you feel the sort of repercussions of that the following month, which we felt for the last few weeks. As Mr. Carl just pointed out, the call volume we track, daily, is almost back to normal this week and last week. So I view that as a pretty good trend that we're seeing the tail end of that spike from Virginia American Water.
Oh, their data feed to us was short, say 1,500 accounts. They say why?
They did not really. So Enco who was providing some of our call center services, was working directly with Virginia American Water and didn't get a fix on the data transfer, which is why they had to manually enter all of the information post transfer. Those problems seem to be resolved now. This month has gone smoothly so far.
I've got to ask, and I'm not
Yeah.
not probing in a negative way. How did we find out that they were 1,500 accounts short?
In the month, they basically, when they got the file transfer, they knew that they didn't.
Well, they knew.
Yeah, they didn't get it. But then they had to manually fix all of them, because typically it would have come in, gone and billed automatically, but instead, because they were missing 1,500
If that,
customers' data, you had to manually adjust it.
and that is something that happened in the past to GCWW. It just wasn't. Our new vendor didn't have line of sight to know that that's something that could happen, and they, also weren't ready for it. So it ended up we had to throw people at it.
Yeah.
And GCWW's been dealing with this for years, so they, it's old hat for them. They can do it. But with the new system, we don't see the data, every single month, and we didn't expect that either to happen. So that's why we're seeing the issues and the complaints online. That, and there's some lingering.
Yeah.
People who've used auto pay that needed to get updated and things like that. But I don't know, what, 7 comments today?
Yeah, I mean, there's several of them are sort of outside of our realm of control too. Like if a bank payment comes through, sometimes when you switch payment vendors on the back end, the bank will automatically not let you make it an automatic payment. So that happened, and then customers have to manually adjust, and it's with specific bank institutes.
I mean, we're probably dealing with 5 separate systems, all interacting.
That's part of it. You have VAW data, you have our own systems, you have banking institutes.
People's individual desktops, all kinds of variables in the equation.
USPS hasn't exactly been. USPS, the postal service.
Oh, okay. Okay. I can see why this would happen, right? Because if in the old days with Cincinnati,
Mhm.
they knew how big the file should be.
Yeah.
The new vendor probably doesn't know what the right number is.
Yeah, well, they were aware, but I think to Mr. Carl's point too earlier, is like GCWW was used to dealing with Virginia American Water, and Virginia American Water sometimes will deliver like weird missing data or something, and they were used to it, and sort of one of those lessons that they had to learn, I think.
Growing pains. Okay. And on delinquents, when do we start to notify the first batch?
The first shut-offs will start we pushed it a month. Based on discussions with the board, we pushed it till after the election in July. So the 3 months before that is when we start.
April-ish, yeah.
Yeah, so what we've targeted both in April is Dollar Energy has started to reach out to our local organizations and nonprofit to start training them on the software for LEAP. So by that April 1st date, we already got the funding. I think we sent out a note to the board that we now 17 and change in the LEAP account. Their goal for Dollar Energy to start moving was 15,000. So they've started moving on their end. Ms. Waters and Mr. Robertson have a meeting with them tomorrow to kind of move forward on the next steps to make sure we're targeting the right organization. To beef up fundraising, we've also started to sign up for Spring to Action to be a donation page on Spring to Action. And really at the same time, we'd start those letters going out, we'd have to be advertising our LEAP program as well. We do continue to look for other options for funding LEAP. We've been working diligently behind the scenes to look for other sources of donations or money that could be put into the LEAP account. So we've been working on that side. And next month, Ms. Waters will be presenting to the board a memo on our own interpretation of the code language regarding rate funded cap. We're going to kind of make it very factual and present what any risks might be of implementing such a program, and then, continue to work on the back end on LEAP and trying to stay on LEAP.
But on Spring to Action, agree which whatever title we give this.
We were just talking about that.
So, because that's what people are going to see if they want to give, and it was AlexRenew, or
We
I
made-
gotta go. So something that catches the people's attention for what the purpose is.
Right. I think the idea was to do the LEAP idea, but we're not sure if we can use Dollar Energy's back end with the LEAP logo up there, so it might end up being Dollar Energy's. We got to talk to them about what we can use from their tax forms and things like that, and what the link is to it's a direct deposit from Spring to Action, so we got to make sure they're okay with us setting that up on their behalf. They might want to set it up, and then if that's the case, we got to see whose logo we use and how we attract attention to it. And we've got like 65 days until Spring to Action, so we made it a priority for us to 64 days. Yesterday was.
Any other questions on the outcome report or the River Renew update?
Oh, General Assembly.
Yes.
Completely forgot. We've been we've been so distracted with a procurement related bill in the GA that we've lost focus of our own bill. But our own bill is making its way through GA with it's not being contested. We expect it to get to the governor's desk for signature shortly.
That's good.
And hopefully we don't have another political issue where the governor becomes angry with Alexander for any reason, like an arena or something like that. I worry about it getting to the governor's desk and it being
All mixed up. Yeah.
signed or.
Regarding the Pendleton Street site on River Renew, what's the thought on the public event around?
So if we're moving at the clip currently, we should be done mining by March 8th. So it's going to, for Hazel to mine in the shaft, we have to flood the shaft because you want to balance the ground load. So we'll mine into the shaft. It'll be flooded. It'll take a while to pull her out and get her situated on the surface. Once that's done, we'll likely host the event in late March or early April. And that's the open house day where people can come out and have a full day of learning about Hazel and learning about the entire journey from start of this project to where we stand currently and what the benefits are in the future. So we've got a bunch of displays set up. It's going to be very photo forward. We're trying to use photos from the last 3 years of the project to really highlight what an accomplishment this has been and what it took to get here. And that helps educate people that these projects take time.
The last week of March is ACPS spring break, so a lot of people, including me, will be out of town and a lot of kids won't be able to come, so I would avoid that week. Possible.
And
I
that's
want to
it.
be there.
That's the event we wear our new shirts.
We are usually with these events, we do have some really cool graphics, but in addition to that, usually you know, you put the TBM's name on there. There's no paint on it anymore. It's just a bunch of steel, rusted steel, but we're having a local artist paint her name and her distance mind. It'll be a good photo op for the community too. Same artist who did Marguerite.
And you said the mining will be complete on.
Could be March 8th.
March 8th.
They're mining quicker than they have been last 2 days. But that's. Sure. So for the breakthrough, we're gonna have a video camera for her breakthrough of the shaft, kind of underwater, showing the breakthrough. So that'll be something neat to watch. As we get closer, we're also going to be updating social media with sort of, we're gonna have like a cross section showing how far she is from the shaft and update that every few days so people can follow along.
So if I go on the AlexRenew site, I could see the breakthrough. I'm watching the.
I didn't think of live streaming. That's a good idea.
Very good.
Really good
Yeah,
idea.
that would be awesome.
Because that, you think about when the tunnel was built, that was the big picture, right? When the tunnel broke through. Not quite as dramatic here in
Yeah,
Alexandria.
we were trying to work through the logistics of like an underwater camera. Like, I don't know if it's possible.
You can probably just
They
get
exist.
ChatGPT to do a simulation.
Yeah.
Excellent. Big month ahead. Big month ahead. Any other questions on either outcomes or dashboard? Okay. Well, I would like to make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to section 2.2, 3711 of the Code of Virginia. Move that the board authority enter into a closed meeting to discuss an item of a personnel nature, and that is all we will discuss. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Right?
Okay. Aaron Schrock, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Roberts, thank you for.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
I'm glad we've got a NSA person